Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the program, The Bottom Line. The Bottom Line is a platform that discusses political issues, issues of national concern, human rights, and everything of interest about Liberia and Liberians. I have with me in studio today as members of my panel, Mr. Chame Kamara, Mr. Paul Chirokle, Madam Antrik Chalo, and interestingly, we have a Liberian female activist, Madam Massa Washington, and we'll be getting to each of our panelists and then finally to our guests to introduce themselves and probably get acquainted with our audience. Jima, it's over to you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jamal Kamar. I'm coming to you live from Manchester in the United Kingdom. I want to welcome our guests. Thank you for coming, Sis Massa Washington.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Paul?
This is Paul Cholope from London, and welcome, Mrs. Washington. It's good to interface with you.
Thank you.
Antrik seems to be...
Yes, good evening. And this is Antrik Chalo. And Sis Massa, thanks for honoring our invitation. You're welcome.
Okay. And then finally, over to our guest, Massa Washington. Tell us a little bit about yourself, the work you do presently, and acquaint yourself with our public, our listening public.
Okay. My name is Massa Emilia Washington. I'm a Liberian, born and raised. I only migrated to the United States following the war. I was born actually in Maghibie County, but at 8 months, I was taken to Monrovia and I grew up in Monrovia. So basically, I'm a city girl. My family is originally on my father's side from Bomi County. My grandfather's village is actually Clay, Bomi County. But I didn't grow up there, but I have very fond memory and I'm attached to the place because my father and his siblings were very close to home. And so they taught us and they trained us to appreciate our roots and where we're from. My mother is from both the ethnic Pele group. Her mother is Pele from behind a village behind Beaumont. And my grandfather on my mother's side was actually from the Barbados. So they called us half Congo, half Native, whatever it is. I'm a Liberian and I completely embrace all of my different, Liberian connection. I worked prior to the war. First, I went to school at the St. Teresa's Convent from kindergarten to 10th grade. And then my last 2 years of high school were spent at the Liberian Assemblies of God High School on the Old Road. When I graduated high school, I went to the French Institute and then later on to the University of Liberia, where I majored in mass communication and then minor English. I was actually majoring in French, but then the Civil War happened. The French department was destroyed. We didn't have a laboratory. We didn't have the French embassy that was sponsoring the program. So I switched my major from French to mass communication. Mass communication at the time was my minor. I was already working as a journalist. So during the Liberian Civil War, I worked as a journalist. If you were there or if you followed the war closely or if you read newspapers account, you would have probably come across my name because I worked at the time with the #1 newspaper, the Inquirer newspaper. The Daily Observer wasn't there at the time. It had moved to the Gambia in the early 80s following the Samuel Doe regime. There was no front page Africa. And so the Inquirer newspaper was the #1 newspaper at the time. And I worked as the only female in the newsroom as a senior reporter and then later on a news editor. I covered the war extensively, reporting from a lot of factional territories. And I think the only territory, probably 2 territories I didn't cover was the LPC of Mr. George Bode and then also the Lofa Defense Force of Mr. Francois Massaquoi, though I went to Lofa County at other times. While reporting as a journalist, I specifically cover women's issues because as a woman myself, I was concerned about what was happening to women in the war, all the stories of abuse, all sort of abuse, the rape, the killing of their family members, and all sort of horrific things that happen to women. So I reported, I made sure that my reporting also highlighted what was happening with women so that the world could know, what was happening with women in the war. And after the war, I came to the United States, of course, as an immigrant. And then I was here when the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was being established. And I was one of 9 commissioners who were finally vetted on the TRC. So I packed up my bags and went home to serve on the TRC. And since then, after the work of the TRC, the report and the recommendations have not been implemented. So I'm one of those who's actually lobbying and also advocating for the full implementation of the recommendations of the TRC, because I know the recommendations, if they are fully implemented, it will be good for Liberia. It will help turn the country around on the right footing, and then we can all move on and pick our country up and try to get it to that place that all of us can be proud. So here in the United States, when I came, I did my master's in clinical social work, mental health. I worked as a therapist. I was, providing therapeutic counseling to people who suffer mental health illnesses, all sort of mental health illnesses like depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia, and what have you. And then I worked several years as a program supervisor and program director. And now I'm a coordinator for my other program on this East Coast of Philadelphia, coordinating services for, of course, people who are considered the least of the least. So what pays my bill is actually my work as a social worker. And but I continue to find the time to advocate for Liberians, continue to, to be a human rights person, because what has happened to Liberia is sad. It shouldn't have happened, but we need to make sure now that we put in mechanism that will protect all of us in the future, so that what happened in Liberia during the war years would not be repeated. So that's where I am. And one of the ways that I think we can protect the future is to implement those recommendations, especially recommendations that are calling for accountability, like, for example, the War Crimes Court. All sort of things happen. People murder people, entire families. People cannibalize people, maim people, beheaded people. I mean, those of us who were in the war, we were saluting skulls, human skulls on the stake. I personally saw rebels drinking human blood from drinking palm wine from human skull. So we need to implement the TRC recommendations. We need to bring the War Crimes Court so that those who bear the greatest responsibility for the carnage in Liberia can account, and hopefully we can be able to move on.
Okay, well said, Massa. You've adequately introduced yourself and what you do and so on. But that brings us to, just to start off the conversation, that brings us to the major question of the day. I'll just put it on the screen for our listeners to see. Is women empowerment losing grounds in Liberia? You've been in the advocacy for human rights and women's rights. How can you describe women empowerment in Liberia nowadays?
Well, it depends on where you're coming from and what you're looking at specifically, because women empowerment has grown over the years. Before, whereas maybe 30 years ago, women were more docile, they were more in the background of even the politics and other issues. But now, don't forget, Liberian women have produced the first elected president, female president of Africa, in person of Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. and then we would have a woman's vice president now. Whether Ellen did a fantastic work or whether this current female vice president is doing a fantastic work, that's another focus, a point to look at. But for the sake of just addressing how far women have come in terms of representation, I think we've come far. We can do more, and I think women should be provided the space to come on the table. Right now, I think we have just one. I think only 2 female senators now, and we have less women in the legislature. So we need to continue to push for women's political representation at the table. But women have come a long way since they were granted suffrage by President Tubman in the I think in the late 40s or early 50s. So women empowerment, I don't think it is being I don't think it's losing steam. I think what is happening is women empowerment, unfortunately, is beginning to be caught up in the politics of the men. So women advocacy now is beginning to look like, same old, like how, the men, again, this is not on the front to men. I work with men, and all of us, we have to work together to make this work. But let's just say some of us are disappointed that over the past, say, maybe 20 years, a lot of the women who have had the opportunity to represent women around the table with all these men, rather than remaining unique, because people send you to represent them. Women vote for you because they know you will be different. They expect you to be different. They don't expect you to play the politics like the way the men have played, for years and years and years, that brought some of the problems. So one of the disappointment is that women are playing the politics like the men now. And there's no difference there now. But women advocacy has really done a lot in terms of highlighting other issues that women of Liberia are experiencing. For example, the issue of sexual and gender-based violence. I mean, women are more and more vocal now about what is happening with Liberian women in terms of the sexual abuse, the rape, the sexual molestation, all these young girls that have been raped, being killed, women being raped, being killed. So these issues are being more and more highlighted. Now, I will be quick to say that it is not only women who are highlighting this issue. Our male counterparts have really been with us in the trenches. We wouldn't have done it without the men. The men have been very supportive in every way, but women need to be more focused. We need to be more vocal, and we need to learn to work together. One of the challenges that's facing women's advocacy and women's expanded advancement is this attitude and behavior of not being able to work together collectively as women. Unfortunately, once women get caught up in politics, like political parties politics, they see themselves as that political party or that political establishment. They forget that they're women, and they forget that they're representing, broad-based women, all of Liberian women. So women need to understand that no matter where you find yourself, okay, in this political dispensation, always remember that you are a woman first, that you have the opportunity to continue to be a voice for women all across the board, women in other parties, women in the opposition, women in the government, what have you. I know when I was on the TRC, I headed the women's program. We had a big process, but women on the TRC were marginalized by women in the government. In fact, I knew a lot of friends who were women in the government under President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf at the time, and they held very important roles. But because the TRC felt, oh, Ellen, we put her we listed her in the TRC report on the sanction list. Other women that I knew, women leaders, they completely distanced from women on the TRC. I was one of those. Sometimes you go out into public places, you greeted them, they didn't speak to you. When they saw you coming, they tried to be busy. They tried to be on their phone or open their bag or try to talk to someone else because they didn't want for the president Ellen at the time to know that you were their friend, because they were protecting their jobs. And again, this is not an attack against the men, but these are behavior that we've seen with the men forever and ever. And here women are, playing that same game and trying to play that same game. So women advocacy, I think, has survived. It can be stronger, but we need women from all across the board in Liberian way of life, whether politics, whether social, whether educational. We need to continue to be reminded that we are women first. We need to support each other, and we need to continue to push women's issues.
Jamel, Paul, Andre, in fact, you being a woman, and you have a woman guest on the show today. I guess there's a lot of things about women that you know as a woman that I may not know, or probably things that you feel that I may not feel. Probably you got something to ask our guest, Andre.
Yeah, thank you so much, Linfa, for the opportunity. Sis Massa, I want to thank you once again for coming up on the show. And yeah, I would like to know what is like, being in the shoe of Madam Massa Washington. What is it like? Yeah, because I can see from all you have just said, the little you have just said, you have gone through a really rough path being an advocate and a strong voice. So what is it like being Madam Massa Washington?
First, let me say, Andrew, that it is definitely not a glamorous work. It is not a glamorous position at all, and I will explain that. When I say it is not glamorous, it's because you get attacked a lot, you get cursed out a lot. If you go on the internet, sometimes, especially in this era of social media, where everybody has access, anybody can make a video. People have access to Facebook and all these social media platforms. Someone can just come and just insult you. You can be on a talk show like this. I can be on a talk show like this, trying to explain the importance of why we should continue to advocate for justice for Liberia and Liberians, and then somebody is going to be cussing me out. And then sometimes, it comes with the territory. You try not to be personal, but what hurts the most is when people create lies. If you try to be an honest person, you build your credibility based upon respect and honesty, and then someone disagree with what you say, or maybe they disagree with your politics, or they disagree with the way you see things, and then they create stories. Like I would just say something just about 3 weeks ago. I think you guys know that I've been sued by former Mrs. Charles Taylor, Mrs. Agnes Reese Taylor. She sued me because she said I referred to her as Mother of the Revolution. But then again, me being an experienced advocate, I could see all of the different hands that, it's like the octopus, like that octopus that it rained on us one time. So the day that Agnes Reese Taylor filed her lawsuit against me was the same day another guy who used to be with Ulimo K, Alhaji Kuma, or Rebels, Vafle Dolly. He actually represented Ulimo K in the transitional assembly parliament at the time that had all those people, George Duet and all those Taylors. So this guy, the same day Agnes Taylor filed her lawsuit against me, the same day he attacked me in the media, he cooked up this story and wrote all this stuff. Massa Washington was a senior executive of Lofa Defense Force, and she was a commander, and her group was responsible for beheading Mandingos. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the audacity of something like this? So it came out the same day, and he made sure it was all over the internet, all over the place. People were just calling me like crazy. They say, Massa, you see what this guy has written? What sort of lies? And then I said to them, thank God you all know it's a lie, because I can account for every single time of where I was during the war. And everybody know, if you know me, you know it's impossible, because I'm a non-violent person. I can't even hurt a fly. And then in August, George Bole, who was the rebel leader for the Liberian Peace Council, he also attacked me. He attacked a commissioner, John Stewart, and then he attacked John Stewart, and John Stewart responded. And John Stewart just listed all of the LPC atrocities, all that Bole did. But then in responding to John Stewart, he put all these lies on Stewart, and then he dragged me in it. And then when you read his account where he dragged me in it's not flattering at all. I mean, all sort of cussing thing. If you don't really know me, you would sit and say, damn, but this woman here. So Prince Johnson, a lot of times when Prince Johnson think about the war crime school, he gets scared, he gets nervous. He go to his church and he preached on me that day. I was super for Prince Johnson. Prince Johnson, get ready. People will call me from a roof and say, Mas, Prince Johnson preached on you today in his church. So that's what I mean when I say advocacy, as I know it, and from my shoe, is not a glamorous thing. But notwithstanding, we cannot be deterred. We have to continue doing what we know is best for Liberia, because we don't only speak for us, those of us who are alive. We speak for the dead as well. Not only the dead, but we speak for other people that are considered the outgroups and marginalized people in the society, people who are not brave enough, people who do not have the self-confidence enough to come out to speak about themselves, to speak about their pain, to say, this is what happened to me and my family. This is what I want to see. So we speak for all those people. So someone like me is not going to be deterred, because rebel leaders, their former commandos and their henchmen, would take to social media, create lies in an effort rather to defame my character, hoping that they will shut me down. In fact, when Agnes Taylor, the day she came out with her lawsuit and I saw all those trash writing, on the internet about me, I actually made a video and I danced for her. Yeah, I made a video and I danced for her. And I told her that it didn't even touch me. If I was having a great time that day, because my son had just gone on a roll in his school and they were having the honoring program, I went there, I was so happy. So Antwi, it's not an easy thing being an advocate, especially someone, I'm not afraid of dealing with the issues. I'm not afraid of speaking up. And so to see people like me and you all who are trying to help us to do this, they see us as threat. But what is so interesting is that perpetrators and their likes, they think it's okay. They have the freedom of expression. They can talk, they can boast. Prince Johnson, Bode, all of them can boast. Like Agnes Taylor, when she left England and came to Liberia, she called a press conference immediately and was boasting about all her PhDs and everything. But then they don't expect that people like you and me who have been victimized and who represent the victims, they don't expect us to talk. By the time you say something, they shut you down. Now the new thing now is to threaten advocates to have us silence. They introduce the issue of now is lawsuit. So they think that by introducing lawsuit now, they've upped the ante, and they think that people like me will be scared, will be terrified. I'm not afraid of Agnes. I'm really waiting for her lawsuit to take full bloom. I'm really waiting for it.
Yeah, and
Can I follow up on what you just said, Madam Washington, if you don't mind?
Mm-hmm.
Are you part of the Hassan Bility group that were behind Agnes and other perpetrators around the world on the war crime of Liberia?
Well, when you say Hassan Bility group, well, I would just say this. I do work with Hassan, okay? And I work with all other advocates who are pushing for accountability around the world. I've worked with the Civita Maxima that is in Switzerland, that is at the forefront of bringing justice to all these people. I've worked with them. I've worked with them a lot. I've helped them with their cases. And I work across the board with all justice advocates who think that they need me, they need my assistance. You see, more and more Liberians are beginning to be in tune as to what has happened in that country, and they're beginning to understand the need for accountability. Imagine the TRC report is 12 years old. And even after 12 years, even though the perpetrators and the leaders, they all gang up and sit down, don't want to implement the recommendations. But 12 years since this report being out, it's not going away. As a matter of fact, it is being debated more and more. It's because you're talking about more than 250,000 people who lost their lives. You're talking about spilling innocent blood. You're talking about raping people's babies. 2-3 years old ago, you're talking about raping grandmothers. Like I said earlier, I headed the women's program on the TRC, and I went into all the counties, and I met with some of the, our female traditional women from the Sunday society. They call them Zoes. I did a workshop with them. I stayed 3 days in Doodoo Town, in the Zoe Bush back there. They tried to accommodate me and I stayed with them for 3 days, listening to them, trying to understand what they went through and all of that. And many days I left completely shattered because to see these women, these our traditional Zoes who we revere, we put them way up here, to see them come and tell the story of how fighters went into the sandy bush. Some of them who couldn't flee. Like one of the old man who was 83 years old at the time, she was sick, she couldn't flee. She couldn't flee, and the oh my God, so sorry, God. I'm so sorry, I'm shutting this off. Yeah. So when the when the rebels overran the Sanders Society, the old man was sick, she couldn't flee. So what did they do? She described 3 young boys, and she said the oldest couldn't have been more than 24 years old. The youngest, she said, was maybe around 16, 15, 16. She said they told her, say, okay, old man, we'll not kill you, but you will be our wife. You will take care of us. So she was supposed to cook their food, wash their clothes, whatsoever. I'm sorry, guys. It's very graphic. But then they were sexually abusing her every day. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to shield the Liberian people here. And I remember when she said, the little boy, when she was talking, she was beating her chest. She bent her head, she was beating her chest. And the tears were just coming down. And I remember the old man said, little boys then, those small children, my grandchildren then, little boys then, they gave me hard time. They couldn't let me sleep, meaning sexually. She said anytime they come from the so-called battlefront, they jump on her. And she said the smallest boy, apparently he was having his first sexual experience. She said he played to give her hard time. You understand? This is what Liberian women went through. So I'm sitting there, I'm this educated person, I'm on the TRC, and I'm trying to understand what women went through, and I'm sitting there hearing this thing coming from our elders, our traditional elders, our Zoes. You understand? And I'm just sitting there, bend my head, and the tears coming down. I was so ashamed. I was not ashamed for them. I was ashamed for Liberia, for what Liberia has done, for the way Liberia has messed up and left the women vulnerable for this kind of thing to happen to an 83 years old woman. So these are all the kind of things, when you think about some of these things, you understand, it revs you up, it gives you the impetus. You want justice. And until we can get justice, I mean, you kill 250,000 people, almost 300,000 people. 250,000 is a conservative estimate. Okay, it's a conservative estimate. We're sure it's more than that. So you kill all these people, and then all of them are in the Senate, all of them are in government. They are all rich, and the victims are poorer than before.
I'm telling you.
Say we should do nothing about it. When people like me talk, you cook up story, you insult me, you insult my womanhood, and you carry on. Even in the Bible, the first situation we had of murder and slaying, when Cain killed his brother Abel out of jealousy, the Bible says God called Cain and said, Cain, where is your brother Abel? He cheated God. He said, I'm not my brother's keeper. God said, Cain, the blood of your brother cries to me from the ground. The blood of thy brother, Cain, or Abel, cries to me from the ground. Oh my God, Cain, what have you done? Meaning that when you spill human blood, it's a sacred thing. It's a sacred thing. God's here because the blood takes on the form of a human being and spirit, and it cries to God. 250,000 people, slaughtered them for nothing, went to Lutheran church, killed more than 600 and something people, went to Carter camp, went to Phoebe hospital, all over the place, Lofa County, everywhere. Some of these people, they took people and they put them in the houses, okay, lock it up and burn them up. When the TRC was operating, we went into Sando County, some village in Sando County. The people, they kept the evidence for us. The dryer that they can use to dry fish.
Wow.
The LPC rebels, they captured some of the men from that town. They tied them. They put them on the dryer and put fire under them, and they dry those people all the fish. When we went there, the people showed us some of the dryer they had preserved. We could see some dry human mucus stuck on the dryer. And then when people let me talk about it, then the rebels, then they start cursing you. They start insulting you in the most horrible way. Then they start creating stories, putting it all over the place, passing it all over the place. And then people like me will get limited support. What would it take Liberians to come together to say, look, the TRC was not a perfect process, but you did a good job. The intention is good. Let's implement this report here. Liberia is not going anywhere. Liberia is not going anywhere until we address the issue of justice. Because the blood of those people, the blood is crying from the ground to God. Why you think Liberia can go anywhere? The war being over after all this time, we're still stuck in neutral. We're still stuck in neutral. So all of us got to come together and be strong. Never mind, it will cost you me and not cost me all over the place I used to it. My father, when he was alive, he used to say, Master, you're such a decent person. You humble nobody, nothing. You know, why you keep advocating this thing? He said, it can break my heart when people just curse you, just put lies on you. It can break my heart. And I said, Papa, unfortunately, maybe some of us, by virtue of our nature, unfortunately, it comes with the territory. It's too late now. It comes with the territory. If you go and see some of the things they're not read about TRC commissioners on Facebook, you will not believe it. Man, you do. The perpetrators do.
Yeah.
The perpetrators who the Liberian people have given all this power, they vote them into office. If you or me go to Liberia to run for anything, now they're not going to vote for you because you know what? You don't got money. You didn't steal money. You didn't kill people. You're not manipulated. They're not going to vote for you. They're going to vote for the perpetrators. They're going to vote for the perpetrators. So the Liberian people, while we're trying to do this, they got to help us too. They got to help us too to help them. But don't vote for these people. I mean, how are you voting for people who open your man's stomach? I have the TRC Women's Report here. This is the Women's Special Report. The TRC report came in 6 to 7 volumes. We have the main report. This is the main report. This is the main report. It's a summary. The main report is a summary of all the commission work. And then after that main report, which is, I think, is like 470 pages, then we have auxiliary reports. Like we have women report, we have children report, we have special needs report, we have media report, we have diaspora report, we have economic crimes report, we have statistical report, on all of that. 6 to 7 volumes of specialized reports. So the TRC reports came in volumes, all that hard work. Okay, and in this report, as I was just skimming through the women's report again, to be able to come on your show to address you, I'm seeing some of the things and I'm like, oh my God, they think that, you can never get used to it. You can never get used to the abuse. Let me just read very quickly. Okay, this is the women's report, TRC women's report. Is called Women and the TRC Volume 3 Appendix Report, June 30th, 2009. Okay, and this is on page 30. Page 30, it says, Table 1, reported violations by violation types, all violations against women: forced displacement, killing, assault, abduction, looting, forced labor, property destruction, robbery, torture, arbitrary detention, rape, extortion, exposure, deprivation, forced recruitment, sexual abuse, missing, gang rape, sexual slavery, ingesting taboo item. Ingesting taboo item means they were giving people human being to eat, like one woman. They made the rebels then came in her area. They made she and her son to hold her husband down while they cut his neck and slaughter him. After that, they told the woman to take body parts of the husband to go cook for them, and then they forced her to eat some of her body part. That's what they mean by ingesting taboo items. Okay, cannibalism, eating human beings. Human beings should not eat each other. It's a sin. But they were eating human beings. Drugging people, children, drugging, women. Multiple rape, gang rape, like the story I explained to you about these little boys, or gang raping, this Zoya. And they kept the woman there. The woman said she stayed there with them, I think, about maybe 6 weeks or something like that. Amputation. They amputated some of the people. And then there were some women, the gang rape was so bad, like some women who told us what happened to them. Some of them, they were so bad, some of the fighters, they raped the women, and then they wanted to disgrace them. Father, they took the AK-47 and shoved it in the vagina and collapsed the whole womb.
Wow.
So those women couldn't hold up anything. Those women couldn't hold up anything. They couldn't hold up the feces. They couldn't hold up the urine. Nothing. They destroyed the whole inside. And then you see this same perpetrator passing around.
These stories are horrendous, and I'm not too sure if any well-meaning people would love to, continue to listen to these people. I mean, to these kind of stories. No. I'm not blaming you, Master. I'm just laying your premise, especially when the perpetrators have not come to face justice, and it just kills my imagination. How the Liberian people or governments that have existed after the TRC work have not taken this thing seriously. Probably Jamel or Paul will let you come, or Jamel or one of you guys, because as I sit and listen to you, I get so frustrated. I get so deprived of my own nature, and I just can't imagine that such things would have happened. So Paul, Alfred, or any of you will come in again, or Jima?
Yeah, I would like to come in. I have a question for Sis Massa, and that will be Sis Massa. As you explain, I just feel sick in my stomach. I feel pain for our people. Pain in a sense that up till now, there's not justice. Up till now, the same perpetrator of these crimes are living luxurious life while the victim watch them on a daily basis. What a pain, what a broken, I wonder how these victims are feeling when you see the likes of Joe Howard Taylor, the likes of Prince Johnson, the likes of George Bullitt, and the names go on and on. All of these people, they are in government position. They are, the ones that we put ahead of our country and our resources. And these people are the perpetrators of the crime. The 14 years of civil war, all of these that you explained, these people are perpetrators of this crime. And our poor people sit there and watch them. Liberians is really heartbroken. You people are, it's a sin in the sight of God. And that leads me to my question now to Sis Massa. Do you see justice happening in Liberia, seeing the fact that these perpetrators are still within our country, and not only there, but they are holding key government positions? Do you see justice for the people of Liberia in the future, or God knows?
Interestingly, much as I may sound a bit despondent, and you relive and you recall all these gory details and all these gory stories, but notwithstanding, imagine if we don't have hope. Imagine if we don't have hope. What else do we have left with our hope? We got to keep hoping. We got to keep hoping that there will be justice, and we got to keep pushing, and we got to keep educating. The reason sometimes when people invite me to speak on some of these issues, sometimes I like to give them some real life practical examples, is that I want Liberians to be reminded, because we tend to again, I'm in the area of clinical social work. Again, it's the issue of protection. The mind, people are trying to move on, and so that issue of denial or putting it behind you, psychologically in the back of your head, you put all the horrible tales there and you lock the door. But then again, it doesn't go away every now and then, because the actions of these perpetrators who are now your leaders, every now and then reawakens. Every now and then, that Buku man that you have locked away in the recesses of your mind, it comes out and poke out its head. Reminds you of how your life has been destroyed. Reminds you of how nothing is happening for you. So I am hopeful that this will happen, is because For example, like I said, it's been 12 years since the TRC issue of its final report. The issue is still not going away. They were hoping that they were not implemented. Ellen said that she didn't implement it. She thought that, oh, the Liberian people will soon forget. They say our people forget after 90 days. But guess what? This TRC, they're still talking about it. We are still talking about it. People like you still want to hear about it. You still want to know what can be done. It's not going away. Because like I said, when you murder people and you commit massacre on innocent people and stuff, it's a crime before God, not only before man, before God. Before God. You have hurt him. God said, I made man in my own image and likeness, meaning that we have not seen God. We are only with him through faith. But when he says, I made man in my own image and likeness, image means the way you see the person. So we are we take on the physical form of God. He said, in my own image. So, hey, when you murder innocent people, rape little girls, and all these gory or examples I was giving, you have offended God. This is why he said, in as much as you've done it to the least of your brothers, you have done it to me. This is why he asked a question, when I was hungry, did you give me food to eat? When I was naked, did you clothe me? God made us in his own image. So I am hopeful that we need to keep this advocacy alive. And I think that the more Liberians are educated, the more they understand the importance of accountability in society, the more they understand the importance and the benefits of accountability and the rule of law. The more we educate the Liberian people about why we should push for accountability, I think the more the Liberian people will begin to understand and be convinced that, look, we need to join the rest of the advocacy to push for this. Because people are hurt, sometimes I see Liberians, I'm like, oh my God, we are all walking dead. Sometimes you think people have moved on with their lives. That's not true. Those of us who are in this advocacy thing, sometimes you talk to people and they're bluffing, oh, the war is over, all of that. And then when you go deep in the conversation, they break down, they start to cry. It's because they have not been healed. It's like what has happened to Liberia is like somebody has a very nasty soul. They didn't clean, they didn't go to the clinic, they didn't clean the soul, where they will put iodine, alcohol. Yes, the iodine and alcohol can hurt, but it's going to kill all the germs and stuff, and then it will start healing it. They didn't do that, but then they take plaster, they take Band-Aid and put it over the soul, that for the whole other pus, they put the soil in and put it over it. Guess what? As soon as that person just walk, mistakenly they hit that foot, that whole thing busts open again. That whole thing is messy all over the place. This is Liberia. Liberia is like a nasty soul, okay, with all the pus and nonsense steeping underneath it, and then they just put Band-Aid on top of it. This is what Liberia is. But just rip that Band-Aid off, and then you will see. So, yes, I'm hopeful, but then also it's like, if you don't have hope, what next? What else do we have? We got to be hopeful, Mama. And we got to keep pushing. And we got to keep learning tolerance. Advocates need to work together. You may not like everything about me. You may not like everything about my advocacy, but let's find the most common denominator that will make it work for the entire country. And let's hold together. Because advocates, you fight yourself all over the place, it makes it more difficult to achieve that goal. We have to be of one purpose. We have to have one goal to be able to achieve the goal. And education is the key. The more we do this kind of talk shows, the more a lot of people, like just yesterday, I just got up in the morning and I talked about Road and Joe. I said, oh my God, this guy's gotten away with murder. I wrote something, I think you saw the entries, that stuff I wrote about Road and Joe. Look, a lot of people who even say they know about Liberians, people were calling me, sending me texts. They were just hearing about it for the first time. Roland Dwyer is the mastermind of the Mahé Bridge massacre from Bomi County, where he was taking people when the Yulimoke were fighting there and people were trying to flee the area. They were fooling people, telling people, say, yeah, okay, we'll cross here. People were asking them to please cross them over to Ecomog side when Yulimoke were coming from Guinea to attack them. So they told the people, they said, okay, we'll cross here over. They were putting people in pickups, women, children, the elderly, and carried them to Mahé River Bridge. from Tottenham coming down towards Monrovia, putting them down, shooting them, and just throwing them over the bridge, taking young children, swinging them in the air, throwing them over the bridge. Victims and survivors of the Mahé Bridge massacre came to the TRC and testified. Me, as a female journalist, I went up there and spoke to women. I remember one of the girls I spoke to, when they shot her that night, they thought she was dead. They threw her over the bridge, and the water took her downstream. Luckily for her, she got stuck in between. People had eaten a whole lot of sugarcane and stuff, and she got stuck in between the sugarcane trash, and and she couldn't go further downstream. 2 other men who were hiding in the area too, they saw her and they pulled her up. That's how she survived. So we have victims, real victims, who are telling this story. So it's not me making it up. We have to be hopeful, because without hope, then all of this, if you don't have hope about something, why are you even advocating, wasting your time? We got to be hopeful to make sure we see it through.
Sis Massa, there's a question here from one of our viewers, and the question is, understanding what happened is good and important, but what can those in the diaspora do to push for accountability? That is the question. What can those in the diaspora do to push for accountability?
But we're doing something about it. I live here in the United States. I live in Pennsylvania. And we're doing these talk shows. There are a lot of people in the diaspora who are, they take to social media. They are engaging all different alternative forms of the media. We get ready. We have demonstration in this place. When we call for demonstration in Monrovia and fly and go there to be part of the demonstration, a lot of people don't show up. The people in Monrovia, in Liberia, a lot of people don't show up. I've been to Monrovia twice to be part of programs and stuff, and people better show up. But when politicians are having their political party launching, they can shut the whole city down. Our people can shut. Our people come. Liberians have been so politicized until they don't even understand. So the same people who tell you they're scared to show up, or they don't have food to eat, and so. But then guess what? They will show up for politicians' rally. You all know that. Politicians will have their launching, and that city will shut down. You'll see about 500,000 people. You will see about 15, 20,000 people show up. But then when advocates, when we call for a demonstration to commemorate, or the victims, you'll be lucky if you get 200 people. You'll be very lucky if you even get 500 people. So it is good for people to say, what are Liberians in the diaspora doing? But what are Liberians at home doing? The question should be, what are all of us doing as Liberians, whether you live in the diaspora, whether you're at home or not? How can we be serious, these two different groups, to make it happen? So those of us in the diaspora, we're trying our best. We're trying. This is why they're just cutting us all over the place. I will get off this show today and somebody would have attacked me on some Facebook page or whatsoever. Those are some of the sacrifices that we're making. But then people in Liberia also, we understand you guys are faced with all sorts of things. You're faced with the issue of your everyday lives. You got to feed your children, you need food to eat and all of that. But then sometimes you have to make that sacrifice so that things get better tomorrow. And perpetrators got you exactly where they want you. So they have hijacked political power. They are the leaders of the land. Imagine people who slaughter people are the ones who are making laws as to how the victims will live and be governed. But only the Liberian people can end all of that. Like I said on one show, I think last week, Liberians need to come together and we need to have a massive demonstration to commemorate what has happened to our people. Peaceful demonstration, it should not be an oppositional demonstration, because we are not opposition of government or necessarily opposition of people. It should be a demonstration like a memorial, a huge memorial service, and then we just walk in the streets with candlelight calling for justice. And let's see whether Liberians are really serious, whether they will come and show out, because it's all about numbers too. Sometimes when we talk to our contacts in the international community, they always ask, Commissioner, all this thing you're doing is very good. We support you, but where are the numbers? Where are your supporters? Where are the Liberian people that you're advocating for? Where are the Liberian people that you allowing yourself to be cussed out for? Where are the Liberian people that you are risking your life for? Because when some of us go to Liberia, you try to be very careful because it's scary. You see how they're killing people all over the place. Just this morning, an advocate texted me. When I kept texting him about certain things, he texted me, he said, Commissioner, for some of us on the ground, we're trying to be quiet now because they're killing people all over the place. So they are getting people exactly where they want people to be. They want people to live in that mental of fear, so that you can leave it. People like me who continue to speak out, you see how they attack me. In 1 week, I had like 4 different rebel groups attacking me, writing, writing stupidity on Facebook and all kind of foolishness. Luckily for me, the Liberian people know me; they can vouch for me. So nobody take it.
Oh, sorry for that interruption. Some technical glitch. I don't understand why it happened. But Chima, do you have anything to add up? Oh, you got to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. I just want to ask our Honorable Commissioner, I got 2 questions. First, come with the issue of these empowerment. You were speaking about women empowerment in Liberia. I understand that some of us were not born. We have women been doing very well, particularly in Liberia, from Angie Brooks down to, you name it, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the present vice president, and the rest of it. All right. And if you look at it in Africa, Liberia is one of the countries that have done extremely well with women political achievement. I was still thinking about our commissioner with regard to the social and economic impact. If you go down Habe area, other rural areas in Liberia, there are women there. They are struggling to put food on the table. They are the breadwinner. Unaccompanied women. You're speaking for disadvantaged women. Are you practically involved in any activities that will impact on the lives of Liberian women? I mean, empowerment through the social economic means?
Well, I've been supporting women's and women's initiatives all my life. During the war years, I was a part of a lot of women's group. I was a part of the Liberian Women Initiative that was calling for end to the war. I was a part of the Liberian Media Women calling for end to the war, and there's so many other different groups. Here in the United States, I support so many other different women's group. When they have the program, I send financial support. I show up. I give free presentations and whatsoever. I have about 2 different women's group in Monrovia that I support whenever they're having a fundraising for whatever specific programs that they want. I send support. So I still continue to support so many different women's group and stuff. But the thing about it is that it's easy to say, what group are you supporting, or are you supporting any group? That question should be more or less like, how do we harness whatever support that women get and women organizations get? How do women come together? Look, women working together, I think, is one of the biggest challenges that's facing women's movement and the empowerment viability. Because, for example, political party women on different sides of the political spectrum don't think, as women collectively. They think as women representing that political party. So when women are struggling in the different political parties, and when they're being marginalized and being brought down, the rest of the women just sit down because they think, oh, you know what, it's the political party thing. And unfortunately, also, the experience that a lot of Liberian women have had, there is something about government when many Liberian women go into government where they can actually create a greater impact, because whether we like it or not, Okay, the government has the responsibility to ensure that programs for women are created, they're implemented, they're viable, and they are effective. So when you have Liberian women in government and working at the echelon of government, but then they don't necessarily support uh, women's group across the board, they are selective based upon who the political leader is, there is a problem. You would not be able to at least reach a broad base category of Liberian women when you tend to label other women, oh, that the people, the women from Lima County, that the women from Liberty Party, oh, these women, they're not with us. Oh, you know, these women, they're not part of, for example, Unity Party. So when we continue to do that, then we make it more difficult to empower women, like some of these women you talk about, rural women. You know, so women need to look beyond where they find themselves. And what I also notice is that sometimes when women struggle and climb the ladder and then they have a seat at the table, they tend to think that they have arrived. And it sometimes they exhibit behavior that makes it think like other women are below them. Well, everybody is not going to be at the table. And definitely everybody is not going to be at the table at the same time. And so you are privileged. You are privileged. So whether you work hard all your life like me or whatsoever, but when you find yourself there, it is still a privilege and an opportunity to continue to push for women's advancement. In the TRC report, we are recommending all sorts of things for women to benefit women, microloans. For example, one of the recommendations that I really love says that women who it is established that, I mean, all women suffer, everybody suffer across the board. For example, if a woman had 5 children and her husband was killed, and obviously she's struggling, at least if her children are of school-going age, from grade school to the university, we are asking the government of Liberia to at least give 3 of the 5 children full scholarship to be able to lift that family up. And a lot of the women, their homes were destroyed. And we're asking the government, you identify some of these women. What does it take for the government to assist them with some, low income housing? And some of the issues that plague the women, sometimes people may think they're not important enough, but they're very important when you look at the impact. Like some of the women who I interacted with, and I helped 1 or 2 of them, but it was interesting because one of them said, since the war, they looted my whole room. This woman was in the Maryland County, in Plebo, Maryland County. She said they looted my entire room, a young girl. She said they looted my entire room since the war. I've been sleeping on the floor. I can't even afford mat or anything. She had been sleeping on the floor with just her lava and stuff. So we heard it. People say, oh, why you can't waste time to listen to, the kind of woman giving testimony. No, it's very important. It's very important. So one of the commissioners, worked with her and gave her money to go and buy a huge thick mattress. For her, it was something.
Okay, Commissioner, quickly, I just want to quickly interrupt you there. I know, thank you very much for that explanation. I want to go back to you talking about the TRC being caught up in politics, or the TRC report being caught up in politics. You just said that you've traveled a couple of times to Liberia, 1 or 2 times, to organize demonstration where you got massive support, where not a lot of people show up. Don't you think that the issue of Liberia is saying that? I think I heard you once one of the report from the vice president saying that let bygones be bygones. Don't you think that this is gaining more ground? You saw Ellen Johnson Sirleaf 2 terms. They did not implement the TRC report. We're going to George. We are first 30 years in George. We are first term. There's no chance. We're just discussing it. Nothing's happened. 12 years of TRC. Don't you think Liberia are gaining more ground? The ground of bygones be bygones is gaining more ground on the TRC report being implemented. Don't you think something happening? And if you can get support of Liberians coming out to help demonstrate, and where the international community to give us support, but Liberians are supporting political parties. Did you see that something is happening right there?
Well, I think what I see happening is Liberians are just being manipulated to survive. I think people just want to survive. And in trying to survive, And I think people are just being smart. Like, for example, don't forget, if the TRC report had been immediately implemented after the TRC work, it would have erased all the issues that, would bring this question that you're asking. It would have erased the issue of safety, this issue of deprivation and acute poverty and all of that. But when you have warlords running the country and at the echelon of government since the past 12 years and now 15 years or 16 years, and when you see the victim sit down and they see repeatedly that these people have been able to manipulate their way into political power and whatsoever, and when they see their leaders are more concerned about their maintaining their grip on political power, so the ordinary man sitting down, he's saying to himself, most likely, I don't stand a chance. I can't go against these guys. They have the political power. They can manipulate. They have the money. So guess what? We just play along. People got to survive. So what they've done is they've been able to manipulate the entire population through this fear factor, keep people in abject poverty, and make people to think that they are actually the problem. Because I would tell you, especially during this holiday season, we now send money all over the place, especially in Liberia, all over the place, assisting people. And people, as you walk in the street, people talk to you, people, and then when you say to them, but I didn't see you come to this program, say, Sister Massa was scared. Say, Sister Massa is scared. The person who killed my husband, he lives in such and so place right there. The person who raped my daughter, the person is a senator. You getting my point? So it's a psychological thing. It's a psychological thing. And there's something in psychology called, or sometimes people, in order to maintain their sanity or whatsoever, they live in denial. They live in denial. It's not because the Liberian people are not serious, but it's because they are trying to be smart to survive within that environment that has been created for them.
My last question, if you mind, Commissioner, I would just want to go back. What would you say to people that say that you all doing this campaign, going around, you don't want to mind your own business, you're trying to build a political capital you're looking for a position like in the biggest city in the country, like the presidency. Don't you think, what do you say to those people?
Well, I would say they have the right to speak out. That's how they feel. That's the perspective. Fine. But I will also say that, one, I have the right to speak out to do what I'm doing as well. And then two, even if I want to be president of Liberia, it's my right. I have the right to be anything I want to be. Nobody.
So they are saying you come clean instead of saying that don't use these platforms to come and say this. That's what they're saying.
But what is come clean? I mean,
like tell them you want to run a political campaign and stop using these advocacy programs, the TRC report, the women campaign, and come and say, look, I have a political party. I want to run for the office of the president in Liberia. I want to run a camp, something like that. Instead of coming like using a platform. That's how they're saying. What would you say to people like that?
But I do not have a political party. I've never been in a political party. And even with that, it is my right if I want to establish or join a political party. And then secondly, I've been advocating since I was 16 years old. I volunteered at the Red Cross when I was 16. So I've been doing advocacy all my life. And if I've been doing advocacy all my life, and if I reach a point where I think that I will do better, I will advocate more, and I will actually be in a position to actually implement some of those things I advocate for. So whether it's in government whatsoever, that is also my right. I should be able to do that.
Okay.
So
you possess all of the qualities. Even if in the future you intend to be, you intend to run as a presidential candidate, you possess those qualities. You are educated, you're a strong woman, and you have fought for justice all your life. And I believe that you can even make a better president. You can bring a justice to the Liberian people. Yes. So if you ever think of being a president in the future, I am your major supporter. My hand is up.
Thank you, Andres.
I'm gonna support you all the way because I think that you are going to bring justice for the Liberian people. Although now I'm supporting a major candidate, which is Alexander Cummings, and I feel that he is the way forward for Liberia, and he will do the necessary to give the people of Liberia justice and give them a better life. Apart from that, when he is done with his term, you can come out and run as president. Say, I
Thank
am going
you.
to support you. Woman in power. The future is
There's
women.
power.
Yes.
I just want to come in with something, if you don't mind, Linford.
Okay, you have to do me a favor, guys. Right now, I'm the only person on the screen. I'm looking at myself. It would be nice if I can see the rest of you guys. Okay, thank you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we intentionally did that so that the Liberian people will know who is this Massa. That the job you do is a great job, and so a lot of people hear your voice, but they have not seen you. So this could be their first. Even me, this man, after several years, because we used to be in the media together, but working in different entities too. So after several years, this is the first time I've seen you again. So we did that. And Paul come in. And after Paul's question, when the commissioner addresses Paul's question, then we'll be taking a break and we'll come back, and then probably we'll be entertaining some calls. We're going to piece of the number there. So Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Washington. I really enjoyed the conversation, and it's good talking to you. I don't know if you recently there was an interview by Henry Costa with Chucky Taylor. Did you watch that interview, or you know anything about that interview? If you did, what your take on it?
Well, I didn't watch it live, but I watched a portion of it. I didn't finish it to the end. I watched a portion of it after it aired. But my take on it will be my same position, because I was interviewed first. I think you guys listened. I was interviewed by James Butter of the VOA the Friday before, and then I was interviewed that Friday by VOA, and I gave my position on it. And then that Tuesday, I was interviewed by the BBC. I'm a journalist. I have international colleagues, so they called me, and so I was interviewed by the VOA and also by the BBC, like 5 days before Henry Costa's interview. And both times I did state my position on where I was with the Chucky thing. So I am not going to be fixated on the Henry Costa interview, because I gave my position already on the VOA and also the BBC. And my position on the interview was that I thought it was a disservice to the Liberian people. I thought it was arrogant. It was an arrogant interview. I didn't think he was contrite. Because when you have a situation where even if you don't think that you bore the greatest responsibility for what happened in the country, but the thing is you are hobnobbing, and we know that Chucky did much more than hobnobbing. It was his father. He had his special unit with him, and, all sort of things allegedly happened. So when you in a place like that and horrible things happen to other people, murder, rape, and all of that, you don't come out and say, I'm sorry if I didn't advocate enough. I'm sorry if I didn't know the need to advocate for people, what people are going through. What are you talking about, advocate? What are you talking about not advocating for people? When people died, allegedly, okay, in your company, in your presence, and you're talking about you advocate for people, what are you talking about? So that interview, I thought the interview was arrogant. I thought it lacked empathy. It lacked sympathy for the victims and their families. And I thought it was disrespectful also to the people of Liberia. And I think that when you have been in horrible places like that, and when you have been in bad companies and something horrible happened in Liberia, and if you are trying to turn a new leaf, I think the way you do it is you start with humility. You don't start by speaking all your best English, and then people are talking about, oh, the boy is eloquent. Are you educating me? Yeah, he's eloquent. Thank you very much. He's eloquent. Don't forget, he's a American kid, okay? And then his father had all that money and stuff, while other people's children were fed drugs, okay? And they were denied the opportunity to go to school to learn to be eloquent. Chucky Taylor had all the money under the sun, could go for vacation anywhere all over the place. I always say, I have indigenous background, even though I didn't grow up country. But my father, that good man, every vacation, every time we went up Tottenhamburg and we spent vacation there with our grandparents. And so we have a lot of indigenous experience. I never saw, again, you can correct me, I do not know the countryman to have a whole lot of gun and a whole lot of weapon before the war. The countryman only had his single barrel gun, and that single barrel gun was for him to hunt for meat to feed his family, to sell, to pay his children's school fee, and the other one, the cook and they ate and they fed the family. I had an uncle in Tottenburg who was a hunter, a farmer. He had one single barrel gun, and when he heard that we were coming from the city, his nieces and nephews who were in all the BB school were coming, he would be so excited he would go and hunt. And he would bring all sort of, bush meat. Okay, so the countryman that I knew before the war was not a violent person who went at AK-47 to kill people, and who gave children drugs to go and rape their own mom in their villages and then desecrate the Sunday. They were taking men, putting them in the Sunday society, taking women, carrying them to the poor society. So you're talking about Chucky Taylor them having child soldiers all over the place and stuff, and then you're talking about, oh, you didn't advocate enough. How about just sounding a little bit contrite and empathetic? How about, and then he said also in his interview that if I did anything to anybody that hurt them, I want for them to give me. So why, if you are contrite, if you want to turn a new leaf, if you're sorry for what happened, why are you using the conditional clause for asking for forgiveness? If the word if is conditional, if means that you'll say I did it, but in my heart I know I didn't do it. That's what it means. So when you are trying to reform yourself, and when you are trying to reach out to a population of people who have been so hurt, you don't start by saying if I did something. When everybody all over the place saying you did something, you don't start by that. So that whole Chucky Taylor interview, it was bogus. It didn't serve the purpose. In fact, it was disrespect. The only purpose it served was that it added more insult to injury. It was disrespectful of the Liberian people. And I think he needs to calm down and re-examine himself. He needs to deconstruct his own life, his own joining, and then maybe later come back and see whether he really wants to issue a proper apology. That's my position on it.
Okay.
Madam Washington is our guest tonight, and is the panelist. Chalo, the only lady on the panel, and we have Mr. Jamel Kamara and Paul Tripley and myself, Linford Goer. Let's take a short break and we'll come back. We'll be going around again and then have the telephone number pasted up there where probably we can have some calls coming back. We'll take a short break.
That was very short.
Well, we actually we should be taking about some little technical issues here. But, okay. Welcome back. Again, you are listening to the program, The Bottom Line, and we have in studios today our guest, Madam Massa Washington, and she worked on the TRC, and she's also been in advocacy for and especially works to her coming on the TRC. But Massa, I will ask you one question concerning the TRC. You work along with other commissioners on the TRC, but it appears that nowadays we are not hearing much from those commissioners. Not me, probably others do, but you have been more focal. Are you working along with them, or are you going solo? What's going on?
Well, first let's establish that the TRC work has been over since 12 years ago, meaning that the rest of us who worked on the TRC, commissioners as well as staff, are all private citizens. We're all private Liberians. So the TRC Act did not say after the TRC per se is our responsibility to ensure that it is implemented. it says it is the President of the Republic of Liberia, the head of state, who is responsible to implement the TRC recommendations. So TRC commissioners are under no legal obligation to continue advocating for the report of the TRC. I just want to make that clear. Now, as far as I'm concerned, other commissioners over the years have been also advocating for it. We all have different personalities. Don't forget, I come from a background of advocacy a long time before I joined the TRC. I'm a journalist, and then I have a master's in clinical social work. So I'm in fields that enhances my own innate advocacy personality and abilities. So it is natural that I will tend to be more vocal in terms of the advocacy for the TRC, and that other commissioners, I wouldn't say will advocate less, but it will be a little bit more, more quiet whatsoever. It depends on our personality. I'm the kind of person, I'm not afraid of the issues. I'm not afraid to speak up. I'm not afraid to stand up. And commission, yes, I do work with other commissioners. Like every time I go to Liberia like once, twice a year. Every time I go to Liberia, we all meet, we sit down, discuss the issue. We have lunch and then all of that. But then also, I am the journalist amongst them. And when we were on the TRC, I was also a spokesperson for the commission as the media person for the commission. So the rest of the commissioners are, I guess they're okay with me speaking out. They know I know the issues, and they know I'm sincere about the advocacy. So, commissioners can speak out. Commissioners don't have to speak out. But I personally choose this as also part of my advocacy, because that's what I've been, like I said, from 16 years old. I've been, advocating, and from the Red Cross, as a Red Cross volunteer, I've been, I've just been me, advocating. Can't hear you.
Okay, sorry you guys couldn't hear me, but I was saying that we want to be very time conscious here, and we don't want to bog down our guests. Today is New Year's Eve, I think, in the US, and those of us in Europe on the New Year. So let's make it short and sweet. You've deliberated very, very well, and I guess our listeners, our viewers, have picked up some things. But quickly, I just want to go around the table. If anybody has anything that they want to ask you, and then we'll be getting your final word. And our viewers, if anybody wants to call, we have the numbers pasted up there. If you call it from the US, do not add +47. It's only 011, not 001, but 011-4799-450. And if you call it from elsewhere, you can add the +47. And Jamal, is there any final question to our guest?
Yes, I would like to take thank the commissioner of very tough talking lady. Thank you very much for coming. And another thing I would ask you, do you think you have any future plan of being a certified you as a social activist and working in social field? Are you thinking of setting something up in Liberia in the near future?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's it. That's it for me, Linford.
Paul? Okay,
Well,
Paul?
it was great having a nice conversation with Madam Washington. These are, it's something I always say, continue the good advocacy, and we all with you. It's about time that Liberia bring this to a close. And I would like to reach out to you too to see what we can do, because every one of us have people that was murdered in the war. Before I go, with the current crisis in Liberia, economy and the rape issue that is happening now in Liberia, would those people be added to the TRC report, or it's just finish from the final report you guys did.
Okay, this is what happened. This is what is going on. So the TRSC was commissioned to do a piece of job, and we had a time frame with which to work. And by June 30th, we were supposed to present our final report June 30th, 2009, and we did. So upon presentation of our final report, our work was like officially ended, even though we had to wrap down the secretariat and other things behind closed door. So anything that is coming now after the TRC will have to be handled not as a TRC issue, because don't forget the TRC is over. We're advocating for the report. So what I'm seeing is and thinking is that when the War Crimes Code comes, the TRC recommendations, the TRC report, I think we listed people for prosecution. So when the War Crimes Code is established, it has that list to go with. But then the TRC, we realized that, because don't forget, it wasn't a perfect commission. I'm not going to sit here and boast and lie to you guys that everything was perfect. No, it was not. But I think we did our best. So the TRC also recognizing that we had constraints and we also had some limitations. We have recommended further investigations as one of our recommendations, so that even when they start to implement the TRC report, one of the recommendations says that those issues that didn't come to the TRC, or for whatever reason the TRC was unable to handle, the government of the day, with assistance from the international partner, however the government want to do it, can further investigate. So I would assume that outside of the TRC or listing itself, that any current government, you are responsible for the safety and security of your people. So if you have people murdering people all over the place, people raping people all over the place, just 2 days ago, someone sent me an information that young girl from Bapudu County died because she was raped and she died from the rape. I'm still investigating it. So it's happening under a seated, legitimate government. That this government should address those current issues, because we have instruments in place. We have the Ministry of Gender in place. We have laws on the books. We have the gender court. We have the Ministry of Justice. We have the court system. So this government should deal with those issues and not try to bungle it along with the TRC, because the TRC is over. The work is done. We have a final report. You can't start creating another list for people on to add to the TRC. When the TRC is over, it's going to be illegal if you do that. But what can happen is that any seated government has the authority under the Constitution of Liberia to handle those other after TRC issues.
Thank you.
Okay, Andre.
Yeah, I really do not have any other question for Madam Washington, because she has said it all. And it's up to the Liberian people to stand up now for justice and request for justice, because she can talk and talk and talk and make the awareness and stand up and advocate here and there, but the international community are looking up to the Liberian people to stand up for themselves, come out in their numbers and demand for the War Crimes Code. Then the international community can come in, because they believe in democracy, they believe in the right of the people, and the people should be the one to request for the War Crimes Code. And I would like to throw light on the issue of Chucky Taylor. It's like Sis Massa said, it's very sad and unfortunate that this young man who had caused a whole lot of atrocity in Liberia, and we all know, it's just the culture of deception in our country, where when people do something, everyone is afraid to come out to speak out and say, yes, this person had done this. We all know who Chucky was during his father regime, how he killed people, innocent people, how he molested people in the street. If Chucky is driving a Convert and then an ordinary car or private car or taxi will speed up, that's a death trap for that identical car that is going to speed up against Chucky Taylor or any of his so-called murderer group. So he has committed so much atrocities, and now he's coming out to say, if I had, that was very, I see that to be a very remorseful act, that he's not even sorry for what he did to the Liberian people and those that he victimized. And the thing is, we have no hand on him anymore because he is an American citizen. And with the laws of America, once their citizen cause an havoc in another country, they are persecuted in America for that. So whatever jail term he's serving in America, Liberia has nothing to do about it. And he's going to face his term for the atrocities that he caused in Liberia because he's an American citizen and we cannot persecute him. And as regards to Agnes Taylor, this is a message going out to you. You cannot intimidate Madam Washington because she's an advocate, she's a strong woman, and she has a whole lot of women behind her. So whatever defamation of character that you have put in out there because you want to intimidate her, you want to keep her quiet, it's not going to work because there are a lot of us who are here who will stand up for her and will continue to use our voice to make it known to the international community that this woman have been released. And the reason why you were released from London is because there was no charges against you. And the Western world, they believe in the rights of people. You never caused any havoc in London. You never harm any citizen of London. So this was the reason why they had no charges and they had to allow you to leave. But you leave from there and come back to Liberia instead of you sitting quietly and shut your mouth because you have hurt a lot of people. There are people who are victim of things that you do during the war, and you come out here trying to intimidate people that are advocate, are speaking for the truth. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. We as an advocate, we come a long way. Some of us started advocating at a very early stage. So there is nothing that any one of you perpetrators of these crimes can do to shut us out. It's not going to work. If you know what's better for you, you just go and withdraw that defamation of character because there's no way you are scaring Madam Washington, and there is no way that the international community is going to see you and allow you to do what you are doing, or else you're going to go back to where you come from. Thank you so much, Madam Washington, and I'm really humble. It's an honor to have you on here because, yeah, I really admire strong women, and I'm your number one supporter. Thanks so much.
Okay, Madam
Thank
Washington, it's been great having you. But in 30 seconds, will you just wrap up something probably that we didn't ask you and you want to let people to know?
I can talk so much. I believe I'll talk all the year. I'll talk all the year. But yeah, I know. But let me just say thank you to you guys for hosting this show. And I believe that even though your questions were so hard, I'm just kidding. But no, thank you so much. Every time there's an opportunity like this to educate our people, one, as to what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing, and the importance and the benefits of the advocacy, I think it gets us closer to the goal of bringing the war crimes code. You see, the Chinese says every 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So thank you so much for the opportunity. It's New Year's Eve. You guys could have been doing something else, but then you'll say, let's host her, let's hear her say something. So I really do appreciate it. And Twist, thank you so much for your hard work and all. And, hopefully in the near future, we'll do this again when we have new and more information for you. But thank you so much. I have seen some of your names, but at least now I can put the faces to the names next time I see you. And Jamal Kamara, I didn't expect you to look the way you look. I always thought you were somebody else. I didn't think that you were ugly or anything, though. But it just, I'm surprised you look the way you look, because I didn't think, I've always thought you were someone else. And you finished hiding your name, but you haven't changed very much. I remember your face from the newsroom. But thank you so much, everybody, and
Yeah.
enjoy.
Linford.
Yeah, enjoy. And Cholope,
Yeah.
are you related to the late Augustine Cholope, who used to be with us at the Inquirer?
It's my cousin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cholope was a sharp graphic artist.
Yes.
He was a very good graphic artist. Okay, but thank you so much, guys, and enjoy your new year. And let's keep hoping for the better for Liberia. And if I won't be present, I will let you know. I'm just kidding.
Of course, I'm your number one supporter.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
I wish you a happy New Year, you and your family, and all the best in the new year.
Thank you
And
so
to
much.
everyone.
And from me to all of you, and from all of you to me, I accept everything. So, Massa, it was great having you, like we said, and all
Thank
to our
you.
viewers. Thanks for being with us for the past. And this is the program, the bottom line. This is where you can get most of the information. And we have constantly said that on this program, we'll discuss the issue from the top to the bottom, and we'll conclude right at the bottom of it. So, thanks for watching us. And just before we leave you, we'll play you this. Jigo and
Wow.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.